I hate that I acted just like my dad used to. My client Joe told me this after he had a big blow up with his kids. He said, "Is this just who I am? Did I inherit this or did I learn it? And either way, does it even matter? Because it feels like I can't do anything about it." That question actually has an answer, and it's not nature, it's not nurture, and it's not even just choice. Truth is, it's all three. And only one of them is something you can actually train today. Think about someone for a minute with real natural height or real natural strength, a body built for basketball or sprinting before they ever even touched a court. That's nature. Nobody chooses their starting build. But a 6'8" frame that never touches a basketball just stays a tall person. What turns those raw materials into actual skill is everything that happens around him. Whether his dad was a coach, whether he grew up on the court or was nowhere near one, whether the people around him played the game or never picked up a ball. That's nurture. Nurture isn't something he did. It's something that happened to him. It acts on you from the outside in, with or without your permission. You don't choose the neighborhood you were born in. You don't choose whether your dad hands you a basketball at age 5 or never does. So nature hands you raw material. Nurture happens to you, shaping the material for better or for worse without ever asking you first. And then there's a piece almost nobody ever talks about, the part where you stop being shaped and start doing the shaping. That's agency. And it's not just training harder, choosing your gym, choosing your coach, choosing who you surround yourself with, designing your own nurture instead of just absorbing whatever nurture you were handed. Agency is where you start happening to nature and nurture. So, Joe's temper, it's not fate. It's an inherited build his father trained into a skill without either of them ever being called training. To tell you the truth, Joe was probably born with a nervous system that runs a little hot, faster to detect threat, faster to activate. That's a real physical starting point, not a character flaw. Twin and adoption research does actually show real heritability in traits like temperament and reactivity. But here's the thing, a heritable trait describes a starting point, not a finished skill. An inherited fast twitch muscular build doesn't guarantee that you're going to be a good sprinter. It guarantees potential or a possible direction. So nature explains why Joe's threat response is quick off the line. It doesn't explain what he does once it fires. If you had to guess, what would you say your natural build is? Are you wired hot or wired to shut down? Drop it in the comments. I actually want to know because it changes which drill you need. And here's the thing, raw material doesn't stay raw for long. Someone always gets their hands on it and helps to shape it. For Joe, that someone had a name. Joe didn't just inherit a fast system, he also watched his dad run the exact same drill 1,000 times in his childhood. Raised voice, slammed door, silence for 2 days. Nobody called that coaching, but that's exactly what it was. Early environment genuinely trains a nervous system. That part's real, but training isn't permanent installation. The brain stays plastic and capable of change well into adulthood. In the scriptures, there's a story of Jesus walking with his disciples, and they see a man born blind. And they ask him, who sinned, this man or his parents? They wanted a fault line, nature's fault or nurture's fault. And Jesus refused the premise completely. Neither, he says. This happened so something greater could be shown through him. That's the move I want you to make. We have to stop asking whose fault the temper is and start asking who gets to shape it now. So if blame isn't the point, what do you actually do with a skill you didn't choose to learn in the first place? This is where the third variable comes in. Neither genetics nor environment can account for the moment. And sometimes this is very brief, where he notices the old pattern firing and gets to choose whether to run the same drill again. Now, I have to be careful here because there's an equal and opposite mistake. This is not just choose to be calm. That's like coaching a sprinter to just be faster with no drill behind it. Agency isn't just a mood, it's a series of practiced reps. It will feel clumsy and slow before it feels natural, the same way any new form does. You don't outwill a trained nervous system in one moment of willpower. You outrep it the same boring way anyone builds any physical skill. Badly, then a little less badly, on repeat over and over until it reaches greatness, which is exactly why try harder next time was never going to work for Joe. He needed something you don't decide in the moment. He needed something you decide way ahead of time. And here's what I actually gave him. It's called the fire drill. Because a fire drill only works if you don't stop to debate it mid-alarm. Step one is to know your alarm. Before the moment ever happens, Joe named it in a calm conversation, not a hot one. His exact trigger, his kid's tone, feeling disrespected, his exact physical signal, heat in his chest, jaw tight. You don't design a fire drill during the fire. Step two is to set the drill in advance. Joe pre-decided out loud the exact sequence he'd run every single time the alarm sounded. A specific physical move, step back, hand flat on the counter. A specific sentence he decided to say ahead of time instead of his father's lines that seemed to just flow so effortlessly. A specific exit if he feels like he needs it. I need a second. I'm not walking away from you. I just need a break. This is not general. He actually scripted it the same way an actual building fire drill has a specific route every single time. Step three, execute without redeciding. When the alarm goes off for real, Joe doesn't evaluate. He doesn't negotiate with himself. He doesn't try to find willpower in the heat of all of it. He just runs the drill he already built for himself. The same way every time. If adaptations need to be made, they can be made later in a calmer moment. So picture the scene again. Joe, mid argument, feels the heat rise in his chest. He doesn't fight it. He doesn't try to calm. He just runs the drill. Hand on the counter, his one pre picked line instead of his father's old lines. That's it. That's the whole rep. Every time Joe runs the drill, he's not just managing the moment, he's laying down a new rep on top of old ones. Over enough reps, that retraining doesn't just change his behavior, it starts to change his baseline, how fast the alarm fires in the first place. He's literally changing his nature and nurture through the application of his agency. Nobody chooses their starting build. Most people don't choose their early coaching either. But every single day, there's a rep available to each of us. And skill was never judged by the first attempt. It's judged by whether you show up for the next one. So drop a comment with one word, the thing that sets your alarm off. Maybe it's tone or silence, being ignored, name calling, being corrected. Aiming it is the first step of your own fire drill. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.